What's up, guys and gals? It's your host with the most, Griever, as always, bringing you guys the latest chapter review for Jujutsu Kaisen, chapter 225. And before we get underway, there was comments when the chapter came out, and I forget exactly who commented this, but I didn't want to take credit for this, but it was a single sentence, and it summarized this chapter completely. Now, I'm sort of paraphrasing it, but basically said, this chapter is basically a Reddit discussion on power scaling. And that's pretty much exactly what this chapter was. We have all these characters, right? All our cast is there. You got Yuta, you got Yuji, you have Pandas there, you have Inumaki, you just have everybody, right? Hikari's there, everybody's there, right? And the cool thing about this is that everyone's basically going back and forth. It does a lot of explanations, which is fine. It's really cool and stuff. But the fact of the matter is that comment's not wrong. This was basically like, what happens if Sukuna and Gojo do a domain expansion? Well, no, see, if the barriers clash, this is what's going to happen. What about the sure hit effect? It's not wrong. This was like Reddit or Discord. This was discussing, this whole chapter was just all the characters in universe talking about the what if, a versus matchup. Like, oh, well, this ability will trump this ability, and the sure hit will do this because the cursed energy output is that, and this, and the other thing, you know? So, I mean, it was a little less toxic than the stands of each character and stuff like that. But overall, that summarizes this chapter pretty good. I have very little to add because I'm going to be frank with you guys, as I have been in other reviews and reactions and stuff, and this is why sometimes I get flack and I get hate for my Jujutsu Kaisen reactions or videos or what have you, is that I'm not going to lie to you, I don't fully understand the power system of Jujutsu Kaisen. I think it's a little sometimes overly complicated, for sure. It's frustratingly complicated at times, and it's easy to like forget exactly, okay, but why did that happen and how is that working, right? That kind of idea. So this chapter was basically, it wasn't as confusing because all the characters were bringing up, well, wait a minute, they were basically using the characters as readers and allowing them to go, but in layman's terms, why not just domain expansion, you know, for readers like me? And then another character would go, no, that won't work because of this, and this. So it was relatively, about 90% of it was pretty, or 85% of it was pretty easy to follow, I'll say. But I can't delve into the depths of who's right and who's wrong or anything, because I'll be honest with you, some of it was going a little, you know, a little bit of that to me. All I know is, one thing I don't know if this was brought up, the one theory I have coming from this chapter. So basically, Gojo and Sukuna are of course fighting. They enter into a domain battle. Sukuna seemingly wins out. Now, do I think that's the end of the fight? No. Does anybody think that's the end of the fight? No. That'd be a big ass cuckold, you know, cuckolding us from Gege if that were the case, right? Because this is like the hype. We've been hyping up this battle since like chapter 1. Ending it in a couple of chapters would not be a good. That would be, you know, not a great idea, not a great plan by our beloved mangaka. So, do I think this is the end of the battle? Of course not. Two things though that I really thought were interesting that I want to bring up is, number one, this one doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. When they were talking about cursed energy, and they were talking about the amount of cursed energy and how Gojo utilizes his cursed energy, it's more so, and I like this explanation, so the 6 eyes and infinity and all that stuff, what it boils down to though is, I forget who brings it up, but somebody brings up the point that, you know, Gojo can't just continuously use his domain. It doesn't actually work that way, which is what the fan base has believed for a long time. When Gojo was first introduced to us in the first couple of arcs, people were having him defeat the entire Naruto verse, defeat the entire Bleach verse, you know, beat up, you know, Goku and Vegeta and all this stuff. They were saying like Gojo is untouchable, Gojo is too good, Gojo is too good. I'm not saying Gojo's not awesome, and I'm not saying that he's not super powerful, but we're finally starting to see the limitations, what we sort of took for granted. And it was well explained here is that, no, it's the fact that he micromanages almost his cursed energy in the most efficient way possible to use the most limited, the most minuscule amount to do the exact same job. He's basically the most efficient, because of the Six Eyes, because of his ability, he's the most efficient cursed energy user, bar none. He's able to micromanage his cursed energy to the point of like 200% efficiency. It's insane. But it doesn't mean he can just spam in a really long battle. Eventually, you know, he can't go days and days and days. Eventually, shit ends up tiring even him out. So there is that. Now, granted, we don't exactly know what went on in the prison realm. That's what a lot of people are saying, like prison realm training, blah, blah, blah. Gojo's going to get out of this here at the end of the chapter where Sukuna, to Gojo. But I really like that explanation that, like, because there's always been the debate, like, Gojo basically has limitless cursed energy because of the Six Eyes. It's like, yes and no sort of idea, right? And they're sort of explaining that here, and I do like that. Same with the idea of the reason that Sukuna can basically go fisticuffs with Gojo when Gojo has Infinity activated. It's like, well, here's how that works. So I did like a lot of the explanations, the loopholes around Gojo's ability. I knew there had to be some, but I remember being a part of many podcasts and discussions, you know, before this arc even started and stuff, you know, and too many people just went, nope, Gojo can't be touched. Gojo can't be touched. Gojo can't be touched. Nothing breaks Infinity. Nothing breaks Infinity. Well, we're sort of seeing that that's not the case and stuff. So I like the way the loopholes are working. I like that it's very specific on how to get around to be able to actually fight Gojo. It's quite cool because it leads us to a very entertaining, a super cool shonen battle, right? Where we have these two powerhouses, these two badasses going at it. So I definitely enjoyed that part of the chapter, all the explanation. I really enjoyed that. And then the other thing was Yuta. Yuta bringing up something that I don't think it makes a whole lot of sense. And this isn't just because I'm a Yuta guy. I am a big Yuta fan. But Yuta basically has almost limitless cursed energy. That has been a fact of the series, right? It's not infinite, but it's so damn massive, he could never use it all up. Like, it's just too much, right? So, he claims, Yuta of all people claims that Sukuna has more than him. And I'm like, alright, that makes sense that, you know, would have more than him. He goes, if I had to guess, it's at least double. And I'm like, double of nearly bottomless? It just sounded sort of funny to me, you know? I didn't fully, I'm like, okay, so it's sort of 0 times 0, you know, it's sort of thing to me. Or infinity times infinity, you know, it's still infinity, you know what I mean? So the whole idea that, yeah, he's basically got no limit to his cursed energy. Sukuna has, but he has infinity times 2, you know? And I'm like, okay, I know they're trying to just hype up how powerful Sukuna is and stuff. And granted, we know he's like, other than Gojo, Sukuna's got to be in that second spot, right? But it just, that line read so funny to me. It literally sounded like an infinity plus 1 or an infinity times infinity thing. It just made me laugh a little bit. So I'm like, well, Yuta, like, that's great. If you had a number to your cursed energy pool, you know, if it was 25,000 and that's like 20,000 more than everybody else, you said Sukuna had 50,000, it'd be like, okay, that I can get behind. But the fact that it's always been stated there is no numbers involved, and it's always been stated as basically bottomless, or as close to bottomless as you can get, and for him to say it's like double on his own guesstimate, it's like, how do you gauge that it's double? You know, like, I just don't fully understand that, but I found it kind of amusing, if nothing else. And I think there was one more point I wanted to bring up about this chapter. Either way, I really liked the chapter. As I said, some of it went over my head and stuff because I don't fully understand the power scaling or the power system. Not going to pretend that I do. But yeah, so it was a really good chapter. I'm very curious on how Gojo's going to get out of this one. I remember what I was going to bring up before, is that they're saying there is no possible way. They use this water bottle thing. They say, pass me a water, and they spread the water and stuff. And they basically say that domains have to have a barrier. You can't have a barrierless domain. It's just not possible. Whether you use the buildings like Megumi did with the incomplete one and stuff like that, you still need a set boundary. There's still got to be a limit. Otherwise, the domain just won't work. It doesn't work that way. It's just it just doesn't make sense. And they compare it to like flowers in the soil and all this stuff, or trying to paint on the air and stuff like that. Like it's just not physically capable. There's no way to do it. And then, of course, Maharaga, or the malevolent, no, not Maharaga, the malevolent shrine happens and blah, 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 and Gojo loses the battle because they have the domain. Gojo's domain is, of course, you know, he's still got the barrier, and then the domains are weak, of course, from outside attacks. Sukuna's apparently is barrierless, so it was able to attack the barrier from the outside in, and boom, that's how he won the domain battle. Now, here's the thing that I don't think anybody's considering, or I'm sure some YouTubers and readers are considering it, but I don't think they're wrong in saying that it's not possible for it to be a barrierless domain. I still think that fact holds. I think that the barrier is just so damn massive that it seems like there is no barrier. Now, well, let me know why that's wrong. Once again, I'm not going to pretend that I know everything. You know, I'm not the Wikipedia of the power system, so I don't know if that's feasible or why that can't be the correct answer, why that can't be the third option in this case, but that's what I'm actually thinking happening. And I'm not meaning citywide. I mean, this barrier is like, what if it's like country-sized? What if he made a barrier that's so damn massive that it just... but he's able to make a conscious, acute point, so it's almost like sort of a hidden ability of Sukuna's. Sukuna doesn't want people to believe in the legend and the myth that his technique is actually barrierless. He just never makes it known that it's just a really big-ass barrier. It's 2 cities big, or it's country-sized or something like that, right? Maybe that's the case. So, because that would explain why it would still fall in line with the fact that a domain can't work outside of a barrier. It's just that Sukuna's barrier, nobody knows where the lines are. Nobody sees the walls of the barrier, so they assume it's barrierless. And Sukuna's not letting anyone in on that fact because he doesn't want them to know, oh, station people, you know, outside the city, you know, the range is, let's say, I don't know, 500 kilometers or something like that, right? That's how big his barrier is. They don't want... with that information, they could defeat him even if he used a domain, right? Because, of course, all barriers, as we just found out in this fight, are very weak from outside interference, outside attacks. So, Sukuna keeps that little nugget of information to himself. Everyone assumes he's just... they believe the lie, they believe the legend, that Sukuna's just that OP. He can use a domain, it goes against the rules of the power system, but he's Sukuna, so they have to accept it. They're seeing it with their own eyes and they can't believe it. But they're seeing it, so it has to be the case. What if it's just a big old white lie? What if it's just a big old fib? Maybe. So that's the cool thing that I'm curious about, if that's going to be the case going forward in the chapters, is that Sukuna's technique is not actually barrierless. It's just, or his domain, sorry. It's just the domain barrier is so damn massive. And he doesn't make it known that the domain is so big, you know, like the barrier. So, anyways, so those are all the points I wanted to bring up. As I said, I don't want to take credit for the whole idea that this chapter was basically like a Reddit or a Discord forum talking about the fight and the power scaling of this chapter and stuff, which is basically what 3/4 of the chapter was. But yeah, either way, I thought the chapter was really good. It kept us really informed. Probably explained to people who are much more invested in the series, probably answered all their burning questions due to, like, why doesn't Gojo do this? Why is Sukuna doing that? Etc., etc. I probably cleared up that for a lot of people who had a lot more questions than I do. I'm just enjoying the damn fight. Sukuna versus Gojo, it's been pretty cool. So, either way, that's the review for this week. Hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe as always. And we will see you guys back here next time for more Jujutsu Kaisen, chapter 226. Looking forward to it. Hope you guys are too. And we'll see you back here next time. Sayonara.